This is now my last video post for my evaluation blog because it's activity 7 and activity 7 is the last activity that I'm doing. And this activity that I'm doing for activity 7 is basically based on summarising my radio show. So did it address the audience, did it attract the audience that I was aiming at? And safe to say it did. So I'm now going to talk about how the story sort of fitted in well and attracted and addressed the audience. So the story that I'm incredibly proud of has to be the Life story because it attracted everyone, like from old people who really didn't like youths, and then you had like young people who like the urban crew who like rap music and that, so it definitely attracted them. And I can say it was successful because when I was flicking through any questionnaires and that, there was quite a few comments on it, and like out of 10 on, I think it was question 2 or 3 about how would you rate the story, from like 1 being awful and 2 being super amazing. The story actually got consistently between like 7 and 10, which is really good considering. So that went really well. And it also attracted like local people because he's local lad and like people will know him. And it definitely attracted like the major audience of like 16 to 25-year-olds because it was it like by someone our age, so it's going to attract people of our age. I feel like the main story, it just attracted everyone really because it's based on something that's like happening just like not just in Oldham, but we're relating it to Oldham because it's a community radio show. So like people from Rochdale or Manchester can like sort of identify what's happening in Oldham and they're like, yeah, that's happening in my area too. So it connected in that way to like different people in like different boroughs of Manchester. Because I like once again when I was looking at like my feedback from like the Tylers and that, and like a few other people like that who came from like Manchester and Rochdale, they like sort of noticed the fact and they really liked the fact that it like that story can relate to different places. So that was really good. And like there's a lot of like superstores and obviously the economic downfall is affecting everyone. So I felt like that really, fitted in quite well. And also, it didn't just attract like 16 to 25-year-olds like it was aimed to. It attracted everyone because everyone's affected by shops closing down because university students can't get jobs. Old people have been there since the shop was like open and then get to see the progression of it. So it obviously attracts them. So yeah, it definitely attracted the people it needed to attract and more. It was, I don't know why, but I think the Dr. Kershaw like one sort of, I don't know, I didn't expect much of it from like people of my age because when you say to someone, oh, someone's going to check up a mountain, that's not really interesting, I'd rather be watching Glee or something, or like if it was a celebrity doing it, I'd find it pretty epic. But I was like flicking through my tweets as you do because that was like the main thing I had to do for evaluation 6 was to get a wider view. I was looking through, and then Aaron Yateman's popped up, and it actually said that he would be really interested in the trek, and I thought that was really cool because someone my age actually being interested in a trek up a mountain is pretty awesome. So yeah, it did attract like people of my age group, obviously, like people like Adam, and it obviously attracts older people because they like things like that. And yeah, so my stories definitely did attract the people. And then like the language we used to address it, it was very formal but basic. It wasn't like complex. We didn't use big words that no one could understand. We just used basic terms. And like we didn't overload everyone with terms because when you overload people with terms, they just go nah and they turn off. So we just kept it like we did with 3Cs: concise, clear, and correct. So we did that quite well. So the language was dead easy to understand, and like it sort of just attracted everyone. I didn't really attract people, but it was like it was just on the same level. So like anyone could access it if that makes any sense. So the language was definitely another point, which was really good. And I think the style of our presenting in that, because like when you say specialist reporter and that, I don't know, it makes them want to read on because or listen on, you can put radio yourself, so you can't read the radio, so it makes them want to listen on because if you've got a specialist reporter out, that is pretty epic. When you've got like a music reporter out, interviewing like a music artist, and that's also pretty epic too. So yeah, and like the variety we had in like interviews, like for our main story we had like 3 interviews of people that obviously will be knowing all like the fishmonger. Your mums and dads probably go to the fishmonger, the Vegemite. Everyone has probably walked past that Vegemite before saying the makeup lady. I mean, most girls within Oldham know that's the place to go to get really cheap makeup and that, so it attracted me in that way. Then with the Dr. Kershaw representative, it gives us a clearer like message about what was going on, and because it was over the phone, it gives it that bit of an edge. And then the Vipers interview, because it was outside and that, give it a bit more of an edge as well, because it's just a different way of like interviewing. It wasn't the stereotypical let's just in a room and interview. I would do it outside, in like the area they felt comfortable in. So that was awesome. And yeah, I think we've done quite well on attracting people. I'm now going to compare my very own media production to one that would be found on Oldham Community Radio. So one of the main differences is the demographic area of the news types. Ours was purely based on Oldham, whereas like theirs was on current news that was affecting Britain, worldwide, just current events. So that's one major difference that we've got, which is the demographic area in which the news is based on. So another difference was the number of news stories. In theirs they had 2 hard news stories, and one of these was based on the RBS owner not wanting to have his bonus due to the peer pressure of politicians and that, and just people in general. So that would attract I'd say people over 16, because people under 16 don't think they really understand, and I don't know, they might misinterpret it in a way. So I definitely think that story attracted people over 16 who obviously comprehend it. So then we had 2 soft news stories, and one of these was based on uni fees. So obviously that's going to attract people between the ages of 16 to 25, because for 16-year-olds, 18-year-olds, they're thinking of going to uni and that, and then obviously 18-year-olds to 25, you're in uni, so some students might not be able to do an extra year because of the fees and that, and it's been when it was out, it was a pretty hot topic, and I can remember everyone getting really stressed out about it. And they had the final story had was an off-the-wall story, and it was basically based on women being better parkers than men. But I don't think that's actually a piece of news. I think it's more I don't know, a funny fact or something, that you'd say at the pub and that. So I don't know, when whomever goes into work and that, bring it up, it sort of softens the news, I'd say, from all the hard stuff of pardon me, the RBS owner not wanting to give his money back, uni fees rising. It's sort of I don't know, it softens it up. It's like a head really in English, it just softens it up. So yeah. Whereas in ours we had obviously our first news story, which was based on shops closing down in Oldham, so that affected everyone. The second story was a soft story, which is based on Dr. Kershaw's track, so based on obviously Oldham again and Dr. Kershaw, so it attract people over a certain age. And then our final story was of the survivor, who attracted the younger urban people between 16 and 25, and all the stories, I've been saying, are based purely and specifically on Oldham, because we love it, and it's going to be on Oldham Community Radio, so it sort of fits in. Another difference I found was the style of Vox Pops. When you look at our I'm going to use our main story, so it's pretty easy to see the comparisons. When we look at our hard stories Vox Pops, they was quite small and concise, but when you put them together they was quite big. But they all shared the same ideas and that. But then when you went to the other one, which I think they was talking about a politician's view on the RBS manager, it was so much more concise than that, and it definitely shows you their view on it. But I think it was a bit too long, and it was yes, we know that you obviously have a view on it, but it was I don't know. I think if they got it's like views of like different people in like different positions. So like, say maybe someone who's on working tax credits who can't even afford to go on holiday, and then maybe someone in middle class who's quite well off, or maybe someone who's just lost their job due to the recession and that. It'd have been a bit more interesting, and it'd have been like based on the people instead of based on public figure. So I think that's like a critique, and then it can compare ours, whereas ours was like based on local people that are on the market that everyone probably knows or probably sees them. So yeah, the presenting style was another one. Natasha presented that, and Natasha's about between the ages of 16 and 17, so obviously that's going to attract younger audience. And she was quite, well, her voice is naturally monotone, but it was clear and it was concise and it was easy to like hear. Whereas on the other, like on the actual Oldham Community Radio bulletin, it was like, I don't know, it was obviously a male, and he must have been over the age of 25 or something, and his voice was like really, really monotone. It was like, it didn't seem like he was excited about the news, and it was sort of the same thing in like Tasha's. It like she wasn't excited in the news, and I think with like, I know you've got to be like, it's like you've got to be impartial because it's news and that, but it could at least sound a bit excited, Oh, here's Viper. He's a young up and coming artist, which is good because when you think of the youth, you just think of like the negative connotations, like stereotypes that there are. So I think she could have obviously upped up her energy on like certain stories and that. But overall, I think our news was pretty good. But I think that I think we should have chosen a more suitable time instead of 8 o'clock, because like the news between 7, 8, 9, the news like the old clocks is always like the main news based on current events and that, and like sport and F1, and they're usually like a longer piece. But I think that if our news story would have been moved at 7:30 when it's like, I don't know, it's midway through the hour, so obviously you're going to do travel check and stuff like that. But it's sort of a wide part of the show. It's sort of like, I don't know, lightens it up. That's like lightens it up kind of effect. But yeah, apart from like a few problems we had here and there about like the jingle and that, and some of the stories not being as interesting as we thought they were, I think it would definitely suit Oldham Community Radio because it's based on the community.